Chittenden. She's our own Tiff's sister, in fact, and was runner-up in the championship in Masters terms last year. But Tamsin, although she qualified very well and was only slightly slower than Florent Lambert, who's been dominating the class so far this weekend, she was very unlucky in the races yesterday and got hit a couple of times. And it was only really a final heat where she had a clear race, and then we saw what she could really do. But the damage had been done by then, which is why she's had to come into this second chance heat and not automatically qualified for the final. So Tamsin Germain, definitely one with a chance of coming through here from the 6th row of the grid. She is in cart 718. Marc Bateau and Denis Gross are on the 7th row of the grid. Igor Mukin, the Russian driver, who again has been better than his results have suggested, really. One race in particular, he was second in the Masters class and a long way clear of anybody else. And then he had a problem late on in the race. So he potentially somebody that might come through from the 8th row of the grid. Annalisa Thrijspring shares that row with him. On the 9th row, Luc van Rensburg, the younger of the two Van Rensburgs from South Africa. Andreas Stier on row 9 as well. On row 10, Karel Fransen and Martin Steinertz. On row 11, Mikko Lane and Thomas Tillich. Row 12, Chris Groen, who could come forward as well in this race, and Matthias Baumeister. Row 13, Lawrence van Rensburg, that's dad, Luke's dad, and Maxim Shaposhnikov. And then alone on the 14th row would have been Norman Stanovics, but we've heard from Jill that he's a non-starter. So there should be 26 carts taking the start of this race. They have 2 formation laps ready for the rolling start then. And this race is going to be of a 10-lap duration, and it is going to be full of fireworks, I think, Ken.
Well, certainly the guys at the front, Paddy Pearce and Maxime Gravois, will be wanting to get away sharply and away from any of the action. But as you said previously, the guy running 7th with a lap and a half to go, we shall certainly see the wick get turned up, that's for sure. Say the guy, could of course be the lady. Tamsin Germain starting in 12th place on the outside of the 6th row, needing to get 6 scalps to get into the top 6. Capable of doing it on her day. Annalisa Thrijspring, a little bit more of an ask for the ladies. She starts on the 8th row in 16th place. Annalisa, of course, the brother of Chris. So, Paddy Pearce is on pole position and is joined on the front row by the Frenchman Maxime Gravois. Alex Beggi and Sasha Pierre-Haida are row 2. The much-mentioned Chris Adams and Damien Viaume are row 3. Jano Toysing and Irvin Montfort, row 4. Marcel Steinert and Julien Renaudin complete the top 10. Well, there's no complaints that Paddy Pearce has not bunched the guys up to get a nice approach to the start. Patrick Pearce on pole position, of course, taking the responsibility for doing that. Maxime Gravois wins the Commentators' Award for easily spotted on the track turnout. Well, that is a non-start. We are not racing. We are not racing. That is an aborted start. I don't know the official reason, but the evidence of my eyes was that they were not in formation. And that was a shame, because I did actually allude to the fact that Patrick Pearce on pole position had got everybody nicely bunched, nicely closed up. But when they made that right turn towards the start-finish line, it just went a little bit wrong. Again, I suppose by the nature of things, drivers that are in the second chance heat are not regularly at the front, although that doesn't apply to our poleman Paddy Pearce, and perhaps a little bit of inexperience. Didn't think that Maxime Gravois really was as switched on as he might have been, dare I say that, because he did lose 3-4 cart lengths from the outside front row position when Paddy Pearce accelerated. We try again. Once again, we're at Karting Genk, ladies and gentlemen, for round 1 of the Rotax Euro Challenge 2013. Those of you that are here, well, there's nothing I can tell you that you're not seeing. Those of you online, a big, big thank you for tuning in to RGMMC TV. The first race of the day on finals day. Race 1 of the Rotax Euro Challenge 2013. Not race 1, but race 1 on finals day. Nice shot of the drivers on screen, just going through the final turn and moving right-handed onto the start-finish straight. Maxime Gravois just hanging around again a little bit. Well, we're racing this time, and I have to say that Maxime Gravois not done his outside row starters a lot of favours, a little bit slow. But having said that, he's in second place behind Patrick Pearce immediately, because Alex Beggi, from a good position in kart 647 behind pole sitter Paddy Pearce, has immediately surrendered that second place, and that is a little bit of a surprise. Sasha Pierre-Heider immediately making some forward progress, looking for Chris Adams. That's a decent start into third place for Chris Adams, so he would be happy with that. Have to say that really did look a strange start by Maxime Gravois, but in the final analysis, after one turn, he was in second place. The only downside being that your poleman Paddy Pearce had got away about a dozen lengths in front of him. He pulls that round as we go to the final turn. The right-hander at pit corner, coming round to complete the first of 10 laps in this deed. Looks over his shoulder, Paddy Pearce. There's not an awful lot to see, Patrick. They're well behind you. Maxime Gravois second. Damien Viaume has moved up into third place past Chris Adams, but Chris Adams certainly at the moment on course to qualify for the final, which would give him a shot at the Masters title as we've been speaking. Sasha Pierre-Heider was the other name that I called. He's gone through in fifth place.
7.46, Dennis Kroos pulling off into the pits at the end of the first lap. So Dennis, I'm afraid, out of the race. Also out of the race before that was Andrei Stepanov in kart 626. He came to grief through the first corner, so the Russian out of the running. Already, though, you can see here coming towards this right-left flick through turns 9 and 10 is the race leader, Patrick Pearce, who's made the perfect start to this race. He built up a 1.1 second lead at the end of the first lap from the 639 machine of Maxime Gravois. So the front row men holding first and second positions. Then you've got Damien Viaume in third place and looking good.
And closing
actually
fast on Maxime Gravois, Chris.
Very late on the brakes, wasn't he, on the way into turn 1. He's come from the third row of the grid. In fourth place, also making a good start to the race, was Christophe Adams. Then in fifth, it's Sasha Pierre-Heider. And the other one that made a very good start there in the all-blue suit you'll see coming into shot in sixth place is Julien Renaudin. He started the race from ninth position. So he's the one in the top 6 at the moment. He's the one in the last qualifying spot. The top 6 go through to join the main finals, and Renaudin is in that slightly precarious position of being 6th. If I was him, I'd want to be going forwards and being 4th or 5th, and definitely not being 6th come the end of the race. Otherwise you're a target, aren't you?
Well, Paddy Pearce would ordinarily be the target because he's the lead driver, but he's got sufficient clear, and as Chris said, it's pretty much the perfect start and everything going to plan for the amiable Brit. Say hi to his dad Rob and his mum Kath if they're tuned in. Maxime Gravois just having a glance over his shoulder, and Damien Viaume, who was a lot closer than he, well, about the same distance now, but on the previous lap, and I had rather suggested to Chris that he was closing fast on Maxime. Maxime closed the door. Damien Viaume returning to us after a couple of seasons away. He's definitely in a comfortable third position, but not in a position at the moment to challenge for third place. Now, that's just the point that Chris Hartley was saying. Jérôme Renaudin, kart 656, has done the sensible thing if it was possible. Get out of 6th place going forward, so you've got a little bit of a cushion between yourself and the chargers from the back in 7th and below. I think that was Sasha Pierre-Heider who went past. I'm getting the nod from Chris that it was. Christophe Adams still handily placed, albeit dropping off the front runners a little bit, but that would do for the French-Belgian racing for the Dutch team. And as we set off on lap 5, Paddy Pearce's lead is 0.8 of a second.
Change for 6. Sasha Pierre-Heider goes from 6th to 7th to 8th in one foul swoop. And the driver that overtakes him there, I think, was Jano Thuysing, who was right behind him going into turn 1. So Sasha Pierre-Heider has dropped back. They're coming into a yellow flag zone because somebody has retired from the race on the back straight there. A bit of clattering going on through the prior corner as well, which is turn 5. So one driver has come to grief there. Meanwhile, the leaders are well past that now, and so a change for that critical 6th position.
Be Chris Groen, is that?
Might be a similar colour scheme, isn't it? It's Chris having a lot of bad luck this weekend if it is him.
Team Crows altogether, because Dennis is already out, the team leader. But at the sharp end of the race, Paddy Pearce's lead maybe just a whisker down, 0.837. Maxime Gravois hotly pursued by Damien Viome a little while back. Perhaps Damien Viome is doing the drive within himself tactic, because he isn't really attacking Maxime Gravois, and in the context of where we're at, why should he? This is the second half of a 10-lap race, Chris.
Yeah, change for fourth at turn 5. Renault getting up the inside of Adams. They go in the back straight now, having switched around. So the blue machine into fourth place of Renault. You see him coming into shot. There he is now, ahead of Christophe Adams there in fifth place. We've got one kart going very slowly underneath the race control building. It is Chris Groen who's struggling to get his kart fired up again. Looks like he's effectively out of the race anyway now, and he might well be pulling off the circuit. It was moving up into sixth place on the previous lap. It was Beji. So Thuizing was in there, and then Beji got past both of them. So now in sixth place, it's the 647 kart driven by Alex Beji. He qualified on the second row of the grid for this race, so that's obviously had a bad start, but he's come back now. Thuizing is 7th, and Pio Haida is down to 8th place now, looking disconsolate there, kicking his kart back into the paddock. Is Chris Groen.
Yeah, disaster for Team Kroos, isn't it? Because Dennis Kroos went out immediately, and Chris Groen only 3 laps later. Just offer a glimmer of hope for the Masters. Mikko Line, who was the Masters champion, not DD2 Masters, but Masters champion when we last ran the series. He's up to 13th, second in Masters behind Chris Adams. You wouldn't think that Mikko Line could get from 13th to 6th. It's just an outside chance. But when we talked of the outside chance of Tamsin Germain, I think that's blown, because she's now 5th of the Masters and 18th overall. Hard to see where the lady from the south of England will get into the top 6 from there.
Bit of gesticulating going on in this battle for 5th, which you'll see coming into turn 1 now. 5th and 6th together, and they switch around. Adams is passed there by Beji. So Adams now suddenly becomes the 6th place driver. That's the bad news. The good news is there's quite a cushion now back to 7th place.
Yeah, I think that's the only good thing you can say, isn't it, Chris? Because Christophe Adams was typically Adam-esque, brimful of confidence, talking to Tiff earlier on. And as you say, that is a handsome cushion. We're into the final quarter of the race, just 2.5 laps remaining. And dare I say it, at the risk of the commentator's curse, he ought to qualify from there. However, if he drops one more place, he cannot win the Masters title this weekend. That would go to Flo Lambert even before he turns the wheel in the final. 2 to go.
Yeah, exactly, because no points scored until we get to the pre-final. So he's just trying to get in there now to keep his title rival in some kind of check, and to get another couple of races out of the weekend, of course, as well. So 2 laps to go, as Ken said. The gap from first to second has been creeping down. Maxime Gravois has got to within now 6-7 tenths of a second of the race leader, Paddy Pearce. And then in third place, also on a very similar place, is Damien Vuillem. They're all lapping in the low 54-second bracket. Through they go, the top 3 there. They're in fourth place on the screen is Jeremy Renaudin, the blue machine, which is a good race here from the 5th row of the grid.
Has been since you first drew attention to him in that all-blue suit. I've been impressed in what I've seen. Yeah,
he's done well from... had a good start, which helped as well. From 9th to 4th he has come, and it looks like he's going to be... through. Driving standards flag is going to be shown to somebody as they go across the start finish line. 725.
That's kart 725, which is Igor Mukin, the Russian driver, and he's going awfully badly in overall terms. Not going to qualify from 15th place with a lap and a half to go.
Right, top 3 settled. Going on to the last lap. I'm slightly nervous about this 4th and 5th place battle, because Renaudin has got Beji now closing up to him. Beji, having fallen back on the first lap, had a bad start. He pulls the move off on the way to turn 5. Look, you'll see him coming up towards you on screen now. They're side by side still. Renaudin is on the inside there in the blue machine. Beji trying to go around the outside of him. Did he make it through? No, he didn't. Renaudin got him back, and that's a bit hairy doing that on the last half lap when they're both through anyway. It doesn't really matter if you're 4th or 5th in this race. I say it
so many times in commentary, guys, don't race each other. How do you tell racers not to race? But you're in the top 6, you'll go through, don't take each other off. It does sometimes happen. Paddy Pearce coming home then. There's the checkered flag. The first race of the day is won by Patrick Pearce. Maxime Gravois comes home in 2nd place. Damien Viome in 3rd place. En 3e place, Damien Viome. En 2e place, Maxime Gravois. En 4e place, Jeremy Renaudin, kart number 656. 656, Julien Renaudin. Alors, 3 Français ont le premier 4 pilotes. Gravouille, Viome, Renaudin. In 5th place, Max Beggy, isn't it? 647. No, Alex Beggy. Sorry, Alex. And Chris Adams, ever the showman, and he's tried to put us on tenterhooks once again, but comes home in 6th place, meaning that for the rest of the day, it's not a foregone conclusion who wins in Masters. Chris Adams going to be able to challenge Florent Lambert when we go into the racing proper. However, the sad farewells, cart number 658, which is Jano Toysing, goes out in 7th, Steer in 8th, Steinert in 9th, and very much a frustrated Sasha Pia Haida making the top 10 but not making the cut.
There are the results then. The top 6 will progress to the pre-finals. I'm afraid it's the end of the weekend in terms of on-track action, though, for anybody beneath that 6th place. Jano Toysing, just as an aside, pulled off a move into the very last corner to get that 7th place, just pipping Andreas Steer and Marcel Steinert. They're a long way away from 6th, but it's still worth doing, isn't it? Just in case there's an issue with anyone inside that top 6, you want to be first in line to step in should an opportunity arise. So Jano Toysing knew that he wasn't going to get in the top 6, but he knew that at least if he was 7th, he's sort of first reserve should anything happen to anybody else. Hopefully that doesn't become the case. But Patrick Pearce, Maxime Gravouille, Damien Vième, Julien Renaudin, Alex Beggy and Christophe Adams, then the 6 drivers that qualify for the back of the grid for the pre-final later on. So a very strong drive and a brilliant start from Patrick Pearce. That was, as I said, really the only big worry for Patrick was getting through that first corner, because anything can happen at the first corner, can't it? Not necessarily through your own fault, but Patrick doing what really everybody expected and controlling that one from the front. And he didn't push the cart too hard either. I think good brains from that. He got into first place, controlled the gap, but didn't. He could have shot off in the distance theoretically, but he's looking after his tyres, he's looking after his engine. He knows that the bigger picture is therefore arising. So those 6 drivers we will see again. Tamsin Germain, I'm afraid, just missing out. The Van Rensburg as well. Nice to have them with us from South Africa, but that's the end of their day too.
Chris, can I just jump in and say a hi online to one of our RGMMC team members, having a little bit of ill health at the moment, but Ingrid Wagner, we believe that you're tuned in right now. Ingrid, so nice to know that you're tuned in. We're all thinking of you, wishing you well. Ingrid, we hope to see you again soon. Ingrid Wagner, we wish you well, and hey, on Easter Day, happy Easter, Ingrid.
Yeah, best wishes, Ingrid. Right, down on the grid, we have got Tiff with the race winner and the driver that's going to be in the pre-final, Patrick Pearce. Tiff, over to you.
Okay, so I'm here with Patrick. Patrick, that looked pretty easy, but at what point were you pushing it, and at what point were you starting to think about your tyres for the final?
Well, yeah, I pushed it at the start because I wanted to guarantee getting away from the pack. Obviously, I know they were right behind me. I think I made a pretty good start, but then halfway through, I wanted to save the tyres because I had to go new tyres for this second chance race because everyone around me, bar the Italian, went on old tyres, so I had to go new. And I know really now in the final, I'm not really going to have much of a showing as I usually do at the front, but we had to be in the final to score the points. Yeah,
obviously you had to take that chance. Obviously, we can see how cold it is. You can't even feel your hands yet. Do you think there will be a big difference to the tyres? Do you think you will be at a disadvantage still?
Yeah, of course, I'll definitely be at a disadvantage with the tyre because I'd expect most of the boys at the front, you know, like your Daroos and your Detiches and all that, to probably go new in the pre-final. They'll do all the same at the front. But what would have been ideal is for me to use my old tyres in this in the pre-final and then go new in the final. But yeah. But
obviously that's a big gamble, but well done, and hopefully we'll see you. Obviously we know you can fight from the back, so we'll see you somewhere up in the final.
Oh yeah, I'll put on a show. Yeah, always do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Paddy Pearce being a little bit downbeat in his prospects, but hey, you can start at the back of the pre-final and get yourself towards the top dozen or so for a decent start in the final. But we turn our attention now to the second chance heat for the juniors, and starting